When you dedicate your whole life to something, you expect at least some kind of reward, right? Mike Mentzer was exactly that kind of person. A brilliant bodybuilder, known not just for his impressive physique, but also for his sharp, innovative mind. From an early age, it was clear he was cut from a different cloth. With a nearly scientific approach, he developed the heavy-duty training method, completely changing the way people thought about working out. But Mike's story isn't just about glory. It's also marked by a painful downfall that few could ever imagine. Picture this. You reach the top, you're admired and respected, and yet, you feel the sting of betrayal? That's exactly what Mike went through. After years of extreme dedication, he found himself at the center of one of bodybuilding's biggest controversies. What started out as a dream of success and recognition spiraled into frustration and heartbreak. But what exactly happened to push one of the sport's biggest names to that point? That's the story we're diving into today. Mike Mentzer was a misunderstood genius. A lot of people just saw the muscles, but few grasped the depth of his ideas. With heavy duty, he challenged the old-school mentality of long, exhausting workouts by proposing something totally different, short sessions packed with insane intensity. But let's be real, geniuses aren't always welcomed with open arms. In bodybuilding, where tradition and ego often rule the scene, innovators like Mentzer face serious pushback. Ever thought about what it's like to fight against a system that clings to the way it's always been? That silent, constant battle came with a heavy price. Mike's story is also a warning about what can happen when you challenge the status quo, whether in sports or any area of life. Now think about it. How many times in your life have you felt like you gave it your all and still got treated unfairly? Mike went through that at one of the most important moments of his career. The controversy surrounding the 1980 Mr. Olympia wasn't just a bad loss. It was a deep wound that stayed with him for years, both mentally and emotionally. You can't really understand Mike's journey without digging into that event that changed everything. Mike Mentzer was born in 1951 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. From a young age, he was drawn to the world of strength and aesthetics. While other teenagers were dreaming about traditional careers, Mike was dreaming about building the perfect body. His biggest inspiration was Steve Reeves, a famous actor and bodybuilder back then. Reeves symbolized a strong, symmetrical, and elegant physique, and for Mike, he became the ultimate role model. Right from the start, Mike showed he wasn't like everyone else. He had a sharp mind. He didn't just work out hard. He studied hard too, digging deep into physiology and training methods. That rare combo of brains and brawn made him stand out, not just on stage, but also in conversations with other athletes. What do you think? Is intelligence and knowledge just as important as physical effort when it comes to success? Mike definitely believed so, and he proved it every step of the way. This mindset led Mike to create the revolutionary heavy-duty system. Instead of spending hours at the gym every day, he pushed for short but brutally intense workouts. The idea was simple: less volume, more quality. He believed you should push your body to its absolute limit in just a few sets, and then allow enough time for full recovery. Ever wondered if working out too much might actually be hurting your progress? Mike was one of the first to call out the myth of more is better. Heavy duty ended up being a total game changer. A lot of people couldn't believe that just a few minutes of training could lead to such insane results. But Mike was living proof that it worked. He lifted ridiculously heavy, trained to complete muscular failure, and then gave his body days to fully recover. Back then, this method sounded radical, but for Mike, it made total sense. The results didn't take long to show. In 1976, Mike won the prestigious Mr. America title, solidifying his reputation as one of the best of the new generation. His mix of size, symmetry, and definition turned heads at every show he entered. It was like every muscle told a story of hard work and smart training. Can you imagine what it must feel like to hit that level of physical perfection while training just a few hours a week. Then came the historic moment in 1978. Mike Mentzer scored the first ever perfect score at the Mr. Universe competition. Every single judge gave him the maximum score, something that had never happened before. This achievement didn't just prove his excellence. It also shined an even bigger spotlight on the heavy-duty method. It wasn't just theory anymore. The results were right there on stage, in the trophies, and in the eyes of everyone watching. Have you ever thought about how rare it is for someone to completely change the rules of sport? But success was just one part of the story. Mike wasn't in it just to win trophies. He wanted to change bodybuilding forever. His goal was to teach people that smart training, respecting your body, and recovery time was the real path to true physical evolution. In the world of bodybuilding, few clashes have ever been as iconic as Mike Mentzer versus Arnold Schwarzenegger. On one side, you had Mike, the champion of short, brutally intense workouts. On the other, Arnold, the king of high-volume, marathon training sessions. It was like two completely different worlds colliding within the same sport. Mike believed that training more than necessary was actually counterproductive, while Arnold saw long hours in the gym as part of building not just muscle, but mental toughness too. This clash of philosophies quickly became public, sparking heated debates across the bodybuilding community. Who was right? Is there really only one path to success? It's a question that athletes and coaches still wrestle with today. As Mike's meteoric rise continued, Arnold started seeing him as a real threat. After all, Mentzer represented a whole new generation of athletes who were questioning everything that had been considered right until then. And like any system that feels threatened, pushback was inevitable. Have you ever tried to innovate only to face resistance just because you were doing something different? Mike lived that, and on one of the most competitive stages in the world. The tension between the two soon went beyond just ideas. It got personal. It wasn't just about training styles anymore. It was about egos, legacies, and two completely different visions of the sport heading straight for a collision. Can you imagine the pressure of not just trying to win, but also trying to challenge a living legend like Arnold? Mike faced that head-on, knowing exactly how heavy the battle ahead would be. That rivalry reached its boiling point at the 1980 Mr. Olympia, held in Sydney, Australia, an event still considered the most controversial in bodybuilding history. Mike, confident in both his physique and his training philosophy, truly believed he could win it all. But on the other side, Arnold made a surprise comeback, surrounded by mystery and a wave of favoritism. The 1980 Mr. Olympia wasn't just a battle of physiques. It was a war of ideas. On one side, Mentzer's new science-based, high-intensity approach. On the other, Arnold's traditional, larger-than-life charisma. At the heart of it all was a bigger question. What kind of athlete would define the future of bodybuilding? Now think about this. What would you do if, on the eve of the biggest competition of your life, one of the most legendary figures in history suddenly showed up to compete? That's exactly what happened at the 1980 Mr. Olympia. Arnold Schwarzenegger, already retired and beginning his movie career, decided to jump back into the competition. He claimed it was just to stay in shape for his upcoming movie Conan the Barbarian. But for many, including Mike, the timing felt suspicious. Would you have bought that explanation? Arnold's comeback caused a complete uproar. I mean, how could someone who had been out of the game for years just show up and compete for the biggest title in the world? Rumors started flying backstage. Favoritism, shady deals, and behind-the-scenes politics. Have you ever been in a situation where it felt like the game was rigged before it even started? That's exactly what Mike and a bunch of other competitors started to suspect. The tension got even worse the night before the competition. Mike and Arnold got into a heated verbal clash during the competitors' meeting. Insults were thrown, provocations were made, and according to witnesses, it almost turned into a physical fight. Can you imagine the tension in that room? Ever been caught in an argument where rivalry pushes people way past the line of respect? That meeting went down as one of the tensest moments in bodybuilding history. This emotional blow-up showed that the battle wasn't just about muscles anymore. It was about ideologies and massive egos. Mike, who always stood for honesty and merit, felt completely disrespected by Arnold's sudden return. Meanwhile, Arnold, who was used to owning the stage, seemed ready to use every psychological weapon he could to win. A lot of the athletes there said the whole atmosphere felt poisoned after that clash. Trust in the rules and fairness of the competition was shaken. Mike, who had come focused and prepared, now had to deal not just with his competitors, but also with the creeping feeling that no matter how good he was, the outcome might already be decided. Arnold, with his charm and influence, was playing a whole different game, way beyond just flexing muscles. He knew how to get inside people's heads and how to manipulate the environment around him. For Mike, who believed success should come from pure effort and meritocracy, that was a low blow. Competition day finally arrived, but what unfolded on stage left a lot of people suspicious. Sure, Arnold still looked impressive, but he was clearly nowhere near his best. His physique showed some glaring weaknesses, especially in his legs, which were far from the standard he himself had set in the past. Meanwhile, guys like Mike Mentzer and Boyarko showed up looking absolutely next level. Their physiques were sharper, more proportional, and technically better in a lot of ways. It felt like the new generation was making a loud and clear statement. Bodybuilding had evolved. But in this sport, it's not always the best physique that wins. Arnold's charisma, combined with his massive influence backstage, ended up carrying a lot of weight. Many say the judges, dazzled by his legendary image, turned a blind eye to his obvious flaws. And that leaves a tough question. Should a competition reward just the body on stage, or also the athlete's legacy and charisma? In 1980, it sure felt like the scales tipped the wrong way. The announcement of the results caused an outright revolt. Arnold was declared the champion, while Mike Mentzer, to pretty much everyone's shock, was placed only fifth. The crowd, the athletes, even some commentators couldn't hide their outrage. Mike couldn't hold back his frustration either. Can you imagine the gut-wrenching feeling of giving everything you've got for years, only to see it all tossed aside so blatantly? Mike's reaction on stage said it all. He refused to celebrate, dropped the trophy on the ground, and walked off the ceremony with total contempt. To him, Arnold's win had zero legitimacy. Shortly after, in interviews, Mike even accused Arnold of competing while high on cocaine, which only added more fuel to the fire surrounding that infamous event. The 1980 Mr. Olympia wasn't just another contest. It was a breaking point. The credibility of the event took a huge hit, and a lot of athletes lost faith in the system. Mike, deeply hurt, started questioning if there was still a place for him in a sport where apparently politics and influence mattered more than true merit. Mike's loss at the 1980 Mr. Olympia wasn't just a defeat in the sport. It was a deep wound that shook him to his core, both emotionally and professionally. Feeling betrayed and disillusioned, he decided to walk away from competition for good. The passion that once drove him seemed crushed. Not long after, Mike's life took another devastating hit, the death of his father. The grief from losing a family member, combined with the heartbreak from the sport, pushed Mike into a deep depression. Without the right support system, he turned to amphetamines to cope with the sadness and anxiety. The consequences were brutal. Already seen as a troublemaker for openly criticizing the IFBB and calling out corruption behind the scenes, Mike found himself blacklisted. Big events and major brands distanced themselves from him. For someone who had once been at the top, the fall was vicious. Have you ever felt shut out just for speaking the truth? Mike paid a heavy price for refusing to stay silent in the face of what he saw as injustice. With opportunities drying up, Mike had to find new ways to make ends meet. He worked as a bouncer at bars and took on a handful of private clients as a personal trainer. It was a far cry from the spotlight and the glamour he once knew. How would you deal with a fall from grace that hard? Close friends noticed dramatic changes in Mike's behavior. Sometimes he seemed upbeat and optimistic. Other times, he sank deep in his sadness and anger. These mood swings, fueled by substance use, only deepened his isolation. Mike was spiraling further and further into loneliness. To the public, Mike became just a shadow of the genius who had once challenged the entire bodybuilding world. His brilliant mind, the one that created one of the most revolutionary training methods in history, was now fighting a silent battle against his own demons. Mike had tasted glory, but he didn't have the support network to catch him when he fell. Despite everything life threw at him, Mike still tried to find new meaning in his final years. In the 90s, his brother Ray's health began to decline rapidly. Ray depended on constant dialysis to stay alive, and Mike, who was always incredibly close to his family, was determined to help however he could. Mike didn't even hesitate. Moved by his brother's situation, he volunteered to donate a kidney to Ray. But during the medical tests, another tragedy came to light. Mike had serious heart problems, making him ineligible as a donor. The news was devastating for both brothers. Imagine the heartbreak of wanting to save someone you love, only to find out your own health is hanging by a thread. Have you ever felt completely powerless watching someone you love suffer? Facing this new reality, Mike made a decision. He moved in with Ray to take care of him. It was a new chapter in his life, quieter, away from the stages, but filled with real meaning. While most fans only remembered the heavy-duty giant, few ever saw Mike's deeply loyal, protective side. In 2001, Mike and Ray were working together on a project that could have marked a fresh start for both of them, filming a DVD about training and life philosophy. It was a glimmer of hope for reconnecting with fans and maybe even rebuilding a new phase for Mike. But fate, once again, was cruel. During the production, Mike suffered a massive heart attack. At just 49 years old, his life was cut tragically short, and the sadness didn't stop there. Only 2 days after Mike's death, Ray also passed away. It was as if the bond between the two was too strong to be broken, even by death. Their story ended in tragedy, but also in something deeply symbolic. Brothers, united to the very end. Have you ever thought about how some bonds are so strong that not even death can tear them apart? Mike Mentzer's story is both inspiring and heartbreaking. He was a brilliant man who challenged the system, paid a heavy price for his courage, and, in the end, showed that his greatest legacy wasn't just muscles or trophies. It was his humanity, dedication, and love. Is true success really just about winning competitions? Or is it about being remembered for who you truly were? That's the reflection Mike's life leaves us with. Mike Mentzer's journey leaves a powerful message. He was more than just a champion or an innovator. He was someone who dared to think differently and paid dearly for it. Today, his legacy as a visionary and training continues to inspire athletes and fitness enthusiasts all over the world. But his story also stands as a warning. The world of bodybuilding, like so many others, can be ruthless to those who dare to challenge the system. What's most impressive about Mike isn't just his physical strength, it's the strength of his ideas. He believed that the path to excellence came through thinking critically, respecting your own body, and having the guts to stand up against what's wrong. What lessons can we take from Mike's life today? Are we ready to question the standards and stay true to what we believe in, even when it costs us dearly? If Mike Mentzer's story made you reflect, moved you, or simply helped you see the sport in a new light, I invite you to hit the like button on this video. It really helps more people discover stories like this, stories that deserve to be told and remembered. And of course, if you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. There are plenty more inspiring stories coming your way, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. What touched you the most about Mike Mentzer's journey? Do you think he deserved more recognition while he was still alive? Drop a comment below. I read every single one and always try to reply whenever I can. Let's create a space for real conversation and reflection for everyone who truly loves this sport. Oh, and if you enjoyed this story, I have a special invitation for you. There's another video already available here on the channel that's just as gripping. You won't want to miss it. Thanks so much for following this journey all the way to the end. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, winning is great, but staying true to who you are is even greater. See you soon.